You know what's funny about power? Most people think it comes from words, from shouting the loudest, from having the last say in an argument. But let me tell you something that will change everything you thought you knew about control, about influence, about winning. Real power. It lives in silence. And the most devastating weapon you possess isn't your voice. It's your eyes. One look. One cold, calculated, unmoved stare. That's all it takes to make someone's entire world crumble. Think about it. When was the last time someone truly rattled you? Was it their words? Or was it the way they looked at you? That moment when their eyes said everything without speaking a syllable. That's the power I'm talking about. That's what you need to master. Because here's the truth. They don't want you to know. People are terrified of silence. They're addicted to reactions. They need your anger, your tears, your desperation to validate their existence. But when you give them nothing, when you just look at them with that steady, unshakable gaze that says, "You're not worth my words, you've already won," let me paint you a picture. You're in a room with someone who's trying to get under your skin. Maybe it's an ex who's testing your boundaries. Maybe it's a coworker trying to sabotage your reputation. Maybe it's a family member who's always known exactly which buttons to push. They're throwing everything at you. Insults wrapped in jokes, passive-aggressive comments, backhanded compliments. They're performing, putting on a show, waiting for you to take the bait. And here's what they expect. They expect you to react. They expect the anger to flash in your eyes. They expect you to defend yourself, to explain, to justify. They're counting on it. Because the moment you do, they've got you. You're playing their game now. You're dancing to their tune. But what if you don't? What if instead of giving them the explosion they're craving, you just stop? You turn. You look at them. Really look at them. Not with anger, not with hurt, but with something far more powerful. Indifference mixed with knowing. A look that says, "I see exactly what you're doing. I see how desperate you are, and I'm choosing not to engage." That look, my friend, is a weapon sharper than any words you could throw back. Let me break down what happens in those moments of silence. It's not just about keeping your mouth shut. It's about what's happening beneath the surface. When you choose silence, when you master that look, you're creating a vacuum. And nature, as they say, abhors a vacuum. That silence becomes a mirror. And mirrors don't lie. They reflect everything back. So when you stand there calm and collected, looking at them with those steady eyes, they start to see themselves. Their pettiness, their desperation, their insecurity. All of it comes flooding back to them in that silence. And they can't handle it. You see, loud people, manipulative people, they're experts at filling space with noise. That noise is their camouflage. It hides their weaknesses, their fears, their emptiness. But your silence strips away that camouflage. It leaves them exposed, naked, vulnerable. And here's where it gets beautiful. The harder they try to provoke you, the more desperate they look. Every insult they throw bounces off your silence and lands back on them. Every attempt to control you only reveals how little control they have over themselves. Your silence becomes their torment. Your steady gaze becomes their nightmare. Because in that look, in that refusal to play their game, you're telling them the most devastating truth of all. They don't matter enough to disturb your peace. There's a reason wolves are feared more than dogs. Dogs bark. They make noise. They announce their presence. They need you to know they're there. But wolves move in silence. They watch, they wait, they calculate. And by the time you realize a wolf is there, it's already too late. The wolf doesn't need to bark because its presence alone commands respect. You need to be that wolf, not the dog barking for attention, for validation, for someone to acknowledge its existence. Be the wolf that moves through life with quiet confidence, the one whose silence speaks volumes, the one whose single look can freeze someone in their tracks. I'm not talking about being cold for the sake of being cold. I'm talking about understanding your worth so deeply that you don't need to prove it to anyone. You don't need to defend it. You don't need to explain it. Your silence says, I know who I am, and your opinion has no bearing on that truth. When you cultivate this kind of presence, something magical happens. People start to second-guess themselves around you. They start to wonder. They start to respect, because they can't read you. They can't control you. They can't manipulate you. And that makes you powerful in ways they can't comprehend. Let me tell you a story. There was a man, we'll call him Marcus. Marcus worked in a cutthroat corporate environment where office politics were everything. People backstabbed, gossiped, formed alliances, played games. It was exhausting. For years, Marcus played along. He defended himself when attacked. He explained himself when misunderstood. He argued when challenged. And you know what happened? He stayed exactly where he was. Stressed, frustrated, going in circles. Then something changed. Marcus learned the power of silence. Not the silence of defeat, but the silence of absolute self-possession. The next time someone tried to undermine him in a meeting, Marcus didn't argue, didn't defend. He simply looked at them. A long, steady look. Not angry, not afraid, just present, aware, unmoved. The room felt it immediately. The tension shifted. The person who tried to attack him stumbled over their words, suddenly unsure. The meeting moved on, but something had changed. Marcus had changed. From that moment, people approached him differently. They stopped trying to provoke him because they knew they'd get nothing back. His silence became his shield. His steady gaze became his sword. And within a year, Marcus was promoted twice. Not because he talked more, but because he talked less. Because his presence, his silence, commanded respect in ways his words never could. Here's what's happening on a psychological level when you master this. When you refuse to react, when you meet chaos with calm, you're triggering something deep in the other person's brain. Humans are wired for patterns. We expect certain actions to produce certain reactions. Push someone, they push back. Insult someone, they defend. It's predictable, comfortable, even in its familiarity. But when you break that pattern, when you respond to aggression with silence, to insults with a steady look, you create cognitive dissonance. The other person's brain literally doesn't know how to process it. They expected anger and got peace. They expected a fight and got withdrawal. They expected noise and got silence. This mismatch creates anxiety, doubt, fear. They start to question everything. Why aren't they reacting? What are they thinking? What do they know that I don't? Am I the one who's wrong here? And while they're spiraling in this confusion, you remain centered, grounded, at peace. You've turned their weapon against them. Their attempt to destabilize you has destabilized them instead. That's the power of the unmoved. But let me be clear about something. This isn't about being emotionless. You're not a robot. You feel everything. The hurt, the anger, the frustration, the betrayal. You feel it all, maybe even more deeply than others. The difference is in what you do with those feelings. Most people let their emotions control them. They react instantly, impulsively, without thinking. Their feelings become weapons that others use against them. But you're building a fortress. And in that fortress, your emotions are processed privately, internally. You feel them fully. You acknowledge them. But you don't put them on display for others to manipulate. Think of your inner world as sacred ground. Not everyone gets access. Not everyone deserves to see what's happening inside you. Your silence is the gate. Your steady look is the guard. And you decide who enters and who stays outside. This isn't about suppression. It's about selection. It's about being so secure in yourself that you don't need external validation. You don't need to prove your pain to be believed. You don't need to show your anger to be respected. You don't need to explain your choices to be understood. Your silence becomes a statement of self-respect. It says, I don't owe you access to my inner world. I don't owe you a reaction. I don't owe you anything except what I choose to give. Here's something fascinating about silence. It forces people to confront themselves. When you don't fill the space with words, when you don't react, you create a mirror. And in that mirror, they see their own reflection. If they're being petty, your silence reflects their pettiness back to them. If they're being cruel, your calm highlights their cruelty. If they're being manipulative, your stillness exposes their manipulation. You don't have to say a word. Your silence does all the work. I've watched this happen countless times. Someone throws an insult expecting a fight. Instead, they get a look, a pause, silence. And suddenly they're uncomfortable. They start to fumble. I was just joking, they say. Or, you're too sensitive. Or they change the subject entirely. Why? Because your silence held up a mirror and they didn't like what they saw. In that moment, they realized how they looked, how they sounded, and it wasn't good. Your silence made them aware of their own ugliness, their own smallness. And that awareness is punishment enough. You don't need to attack them back. You don't need to defend yourself. Your silence is both shield and sword. It protects you while simultaneously exposing them. That's efficiency. That's power. Now let's talk about time. Because here's something most people don't understand. Power isn't about winning the moment. It's about winning the marathon. It's about playing the long game while everyone else is focused on instant gratification. When you react with anger, with hurt, with defensiveness, you're playing the short game. You might win the argument. You might get your point across. But you've lost something far more valuable, your composure, your energy, your peace. And those are resources you can't afford to waste on people who don't matter. But when you choose silence, when you master that unmoved look, you're playing chess while they're playing checkers. You're thinking 10 moves ahead. You're conserving your energy for battles that actually matter. You're building a reputation as someone who can't be shaken, can't be controlled, can't be broken. And over time, that reputation becomes your greatest asset. People stop testing you because they know they'll get nothing. Manipulators avoid you because their tactics don't work. Drama creators move on to easier targets because you refuse to participate. Your silence becomes a filter, weeding out the weak and attracting the strong. Think about the people you truly respect. The ones who command attention without demanding it. The ones whose presence alone shifts the energy in a room. I guarantee you they're not the loudest. They're the ones who've mastered the art of silence, who understand that less is more, that sometimes a look says more than 1,000 words ever could. Let me be honest with you. This transformation isn't easy. We live in a world that rewards reaction. Social media has trained us to respond instantly, to share every thought, to broadcast every emotion. We've been conditioned to believe that silence equals weakness, that if we're not defending ourselves, we're letting them win. But that's a lie. That's what they want you to believe. Because when you're busy reacting, you're not thinking. When you're busy defending, you're not building. When you're busy explaining yourself to people who've already made up their minds, you're wasting time you'll never get back. The transformation begins when you realize that your silence is a choice, not a burden. It's a strategy, not a surrender. It's a statement of power, not an admission of defeat. And once you internalize that truth, everything changes. You'll notice it first in small moments. Someone tries to provoke you in a conversation. Instead of taking the bait, you pause. You look at them. You let the silence speak. And you watch as they become uncomfortable, as they scramble to fill the void. That's your first victory. Then it happens in bigger situations. A confrontation at work, a family argument, a betrayal from someone you trusted. And instead of exploding, instead of breaking down, you become still. You become the eye of the storm, calm, centered, unmoved. And while chaos swirls around you, you remain untouched. That's power. Over time, this becomes your nature. Silence becomes your default, not your exception. That steady knowing look becomes your signature. People start to describe you differently. There's something about them, they say, something powerful, something untouchable. And they're right. You've become the wolf, the fortress, the unmoved. Here's the beautiful truth about mastering silence: it sets you free. Free from the need to be understood, free from the need to be liked, free from the need to prove yourself to people who don't matter. Free from the exhausting cycle of action and reaction that keeps most people trapped in mediocrity. When you no longer need their validation, their words lose all power. When you no longer fear their judgment, their opinions become irrelevant. When you no longer crave their approval, you become truly independent. And independence, my friend, is the highest form of power. Think about what that means. It means you can walk away from toxic people without explaining yourself. It means you can pursue your dreams without seeking permission. It means you can set boundaries without feeling guilty. It means you can live life on your terms, not theirs. Your silence becomes your declaration of independence. That look, that calm, unmoved presence becomes your flag. And everyone who sees it knows this person can't be controlled, can't be manipulated, can't be broken. This person is free. One day, long after these moments have passed, people will remember you. But they won't remember what you said in arguments. They won't remember how eloquently you defended yourself. They won't remember the clever comebacks or the heated debates. They'll remember how you made them feel. They'll remember that look, that moment when they tried to break you and you didn't even flinch. That moment when they expected a reaction and you gave them nothing but a steady gaze that saw right through them. They'll remember how your silence was louder than their screams. how your calm was more powerful than their chaos. And some of them will hate you for it. They'll call you cold, arrogant, emotionless. Let them, because their words are just noise, and you've already proven that noise has no power over you. But others, the ones who matter, will respect you. They'll admire your strength. They'll be drawn to your peace. They'll want to learn from you. And when they ask, how do you stay so calm? How do you stay so unmoved? You'll smile. And maybe if they're ready, you'll teach them what you've learned. That silence isn't weakness, it's strength. That one look can say more than 1,000 words. That the most powerful weapon you have isn't your voice. It's your choice not to use it. So here's where we stand. You have a choice to make. You can continue living the way you've been living, reacting to every provocation, defending every attack, explaining yourself to people who will never understand, exhausting yourself in battles that don't matter, playing their game by their rules, giving away your power piece by piece. Or you can choose a different path. The path of silence. The path of the unmoved. The path where a single look carries more weight than 1,000 arguments. Where your presence alone commands respect. Where your peace is unshakable because it comes from within, not from external validation. This path isn't easy. It requires discipline, self-control, a willingness to stand alone when the world tells you to speak up. It requires you to trust in your own strength even when others question it. To believe in your own worth even when others try to diminish it. But I promise you this, once you master the art of silence, once you perfect that look that says everything, without saying anything, you become untouchable. Not because you've hardened your heart, but because you've strengthened your spirit. Not because you don't care, but because you care about the right things. About your peace, your growth, your future. The noise of the world will continue. People will still try to provoke you, to manipulate you, to break you, but they'll find nothing to grab onto. Because you'll be like water flowing around their obstacles, calm on the surface, powerful beneath. Like stone, immovable, unshaken, enduring. And that look, that silent, steady, knowing look, will be your signature. The mark of someone who's transcended the need for external validation, who's found power in stillness, who's discovered that sometimes the most devastating thing you can do is absolutely nothing at all. So the next time someone comes at you with their games, their manipulations, their desperate need for your reaction, remember this moment. Remember what you've learned. Take a breath, center yourself, and then give them that look. Not angry, not hurt, not afraid, just present, aware, unmoved. Let the silence speak. Let it say, I see you. I see what you're doing, and I'm choosing not to engage. Let it say, you don't have power here. Not over me, not anymore. Let it say, I'm the wolf, the fortress, the unmoved, and you're just noise. And then watch. Watch as their confidence cracks. Watch as their facade crumbles. Watch as they realize they've lost before the battle even began. Because you didn't fight them. You transcended them. You rose above them. And that, my friend, is the ultimate victory. Your silence is your weapon. Your look is your ammunition. And your peace is your prize. Use them wisely. Use them well. Because in a world drowning in noise, your silence will be the loudest thing they ever hear. And it will break them in ways anger never could.